IT emergency exercise. Well, on the one side, it's probably good to have a IT emergency manual in the first place, that basically the procedures are described, what in case of an emergency has to be done, how the situation has to be handled, what kind of recovery activities have to be performed. However, if you don't have an IT emergency manual present or it is very, very outdated, it's good to start with a simulation first. This simulation will help you to understand what is the current state of art, if you want to call it that way, in your business to recover from a severe issue, from during crisis management, or even from a cybersecurity incident. There's multiple ways to do it. Tabletop exercise, TTX, is something that's now very common. You can find it all over the internet. That is basically the idea to sit together with different key members of the team from IT, from business, from legal, and step by step walk through such a scenario where you have to recover from a severe issue. For example, if you take ransomware, you basically sit together and say, this is what happened. So and so many users are affected. System doesn't work anymore. Customers are calling. What do we do now? And then everyone can give their opinion. That's more like an organized process of interviewing based on a role play or scenario based activity. A simulation is usually much better because then people really feel what happens. And if you announce it beforehand, of course, it doesn't cause any big business disruption, but it may also take away somehow the effect of fear and stress, which most of the team members would have if a real situation will come true. And that is not to underestimate, because that usually brings in human error, this brings in time delays, communication issues, and things like that. During this exercise, no matter how you do it, either it's a proper simulation with a scenario and some look and feel of the problem, or you just plainly do the tabletop exercise where you do it as part of a workshop. Still, you have to identify the gaps and improve your preparedness for such an event, and after that, promote awareness. I mean, the more people you involve in such an exercise, of course, it's a cost factor and time factor, but at the end of the day, you may save some money on the promotion of awareness activity, because if people have not really joined such a scenario, they may and only look at fancy banners and, let's say, email or a video that might not be really bringing the point across and give the same look and feel. Because I said, even the tabletop exercise doesn't give the same look and feel, so it's even more filtered when you just get some awareness campaign, but not really the actual activity. Um, what you should do then is, of course, follow the ITEM if you have one. Even when it's outdated, you can take bits and pieces, because at the end of the day, you have to record your lesson learned. And these lessons learned are based also on the IT emergency manual, but also on the exercise itself. And then later you still have to update the IT emergency manual, because you have to say, how did it really go? What is more realistic? Don't make so much of a gap analysis and overanalyze. Just carve out what would be the new emergency manual looking like. Shorter is usually better, because in case of an emergency, you may not have so much time to read and understand. So it's more like like this little card on the airplane that you find, which describes in nice pictures, language independent, what to do. And in this case, you don't have to be language independent, but you may have to figure out a way how to make it easy to understand and comprehensible, especially when new people joined the company. and you haven't conducted the exercise yet together with them. So my opinion is, or let's say the experience is, most of the time is lost on communication. That includes ITEE emergency manual that is too complicated to read, or it is not accessible at the time of emergency, be it because it's saved in a shared file folder and you don't have access to that because your computer has been taken ransom. So it must be literally accessible. It's not like the fire extinguisher is also not referring you to the user handbook, which you have to get from the storeroom, and it's on the top of the shelf. So it's printed on top of the fire extinguisher. So here, literally something like that, same analogy, you should have as an IT emergency manual available for your exercise, because that is your playbook. Another recommendation here is to do actually 2 rounds of this IT emergency exercise if major updates in the IT emergency manual have occurred. So that means one round is done. You see many gaps. You have to improve a lot. And to promote the awareness, the best step is to just redo it again. Just re-emphasize positive behavior. Yes, people may have a little bit of a scare from the first exercise because it didn't go well. Management also not happy. Finger pointing going on. The best thing to iron it out is just redo it with the new thoughts, and then just little refinement may come up, but at least you have rehearsed the better way of doing it. And trust me, even when you have, let's say, identified the gap and put together the lesson learned, and you think you know how to do it better, it may not turn out to be immediately better. So it is good to do it one more time, second round, within a short period of time, just to re-emphasize how it should be done. Because sometimes, it's the psychology that a few months later people remember there was an issue, but they remember the issue in that way that they somehow naturally do the same error again, instead of remembering what was the right thing to do because they have never done it. And of course, recommendation here also is to do it very unannounced. As I mentioned, especially when the IT emergency manual is very old, then yes, maybe do a tabletop exercise together with a small amount of people, the key stakeholders, come up with something, refine it, but then run it across the whole organization, and not at least not at the beginning unveil that this is an exercise. I mean, yes, you can be fair to everyone and say there will be an exercise within the next 3 months, and you just wait for it. Some people may forget about it. But again, if you want to have this reality factor in it, it has to be a simulation, it has to be scenario based, and it has to be as close as to reality as you can be, because that will help you to really practice for the real issue, and you can factor in the human aspect of this exercise where people get stressed, and even that belongs into the lessons learned, that you understand how to mitigate the stress. Again, communication is key. You may have to have someone or a few people that are calming down the team and making sure that no one is freaking out literally and disturbing the whole recovery process and making it difficult for the others. So the psychological aspect is part of the lessons learned and has to be also part of the IT emergency manual if that's turning to be out critical for your organization.